My name is Christopher Reibold. I'm known as the Saint Story Guy. I'm a professional storyteller. I do write. I have one book out. I write for parish magazines and Catholic radio and so on. But most of what I do is old-fashioned live storytelling. The saints, to me, growing up, were stained glass windows, on the wall of the church. I did not know who they were. I didn't understand why they were important. I think if I'd had a better appreciation for the saints, I probably would have gone ahead and made my confirmation when I was 13 rather than declining to do so. The interesting thing about the role of the saints in my time out of the church, in terms of whether I continued to think about them, the answer is consciously no. Somehow, though, they were always a part of my reading. I've loved to read. I read a lot of books and just looking back in hindsight, looking at the books I amassed in my library, they were always part of my reading. They were always there, even though I had a kind of mental block about it consciously. I wasn't really aware of the importance that they held for me. The saints become real to me, I think, in a couple of different ways. An important way, and maybe the most important way, is exposure to relics. I was not really familiar with them before my return to the church. I didn't really understand their importance, but I always find, when I'm in the presence of relics, that the stories of the saints become real, they become immediate, they're powerful. St. Theodore Stratilitis was a Roman general who was melted down a bunch of pagan statues, broke them up, and gave the golden jewels away to the poor, which was not well received by Emperor Licinius. He was executed. I'll spare you the gory details, but his skull is at St. Anthony's Chapel in Pittsburgh. And it's always the first thing I go see when I have an opportunity to go to the chapel. That is the skull of a Roman general who stood up to the emperor and died for Christ. And I can't help but be moved by that. His story ceases to be a folk tale or a legend, and becomes this real, dramatic, powerful, and important thing when I can look at his skull. So that's a really important way that the saints become real to me. The other is through the use of imagination. I like storytelling. I like film. I like to draw and paint, and I'm a visual person in that sense. I'm attracted to things like Ignatian's spiritual exercises and so on. So imaginative, recreative, putting myself in the place of kinds of prayer or devotional exercises help the saints to become very real to me. If I came across someone whose grandparents had a devotion, or who still have in their possession some old prayer cards or artifacts that have come down through the family that they have retained because they have some connection to a loved one, but for whom they don't have a spiritual significance, I would simply ask them back, why do you think these people were important to your grandmother? Who were these people to her? And challenge them to learn a little bit. I just always find that the more that people learn about the saints or about Catholicism, the more attracted they are to it, the more respect they have for it. If they're telling me that these people hold no particular significance to them, then they don't understand the communion of saints. They don't understand who these people are. And so I would just challenge them. Look, why don't you, here's a couple of good books you could go read. Here's where you could go see a relic. Here's where you could take the time, invest a little time in understanding why this person mattered to your grandparent, and I think that person will come to matter to you too.